Embarrass, Minnesota, May 1803. While American neighbors rushed to install quick heating potbelly stoves before winter, 42-year-old Finnish immigrant Aino Kivela was building something different, a 10 by 12-foot log sauna centered around a massive stone cuis piled with several hundred pounds of rock. His neighbors called it wasteful. They called him a fool. Why heat stones when cast iron could warm a room by supper time? Then came winter 1911 to 1912. Minnesota's coldest January on record, 186 consecutive hours below zero, temperatures hitting 35 below. Standard potbelly stoves failed. Neighbors burned furniture to survive. Water froze at floor level despite roaring fires. But Aino's stone system maintained 68 degrees all night from a single evening burn. What did this Finnish immigrant understand about heating that 2 generations of American homesteaders had completely missed? Aino Kivela stepped off the train at Embarrass Station on May 18, 1903, carrying a leather tool roll that held chisels worn smooth from years of splitting soapstone in the quarries near Juka. His wife Aino clutched their 2 young children as they surveyed the 40 acres of stump-scattered cut-over land that would become their homestead. The Iron Range settlement buzzed with Finnish voices, loggers, miners, and farmers who had followed the same path from eastern Finland to northern Minnesota's promise of work and land. While other new arrivals rushed to frame houses before winter, Aino walked his property with different priorities. He paced off a level spot near the planned cabin site and drove stakes for a 10 by 12-foot foundation. This would be a sauna, built first according to Finnish custom, that recognized the bathhouse as essential for health, cleanliness, and survival through the long northern winter. In the old country, a sauna served as birthing room, smokehouse, and emergency shelter when the main dwelling failed. Aino's apprenticeship as a pit sawyer had taught him to read timber, but his real expertise lay in stonework. In Juka, he had learned to select, split, and shape soapstone for the massive heating stoves that warmed Finnish farmhouses through months of sub-zero weather. Now, examining the granite fieldstone scattered across his Minnesota land, he planned a cuis that would store and release heat according to principles perfected over centuries in similar climate. The log walls rose quickly under Aino's practiced hands. He scribed each timber to fit tight without chinking, raising them to a 7-foot ceiling height that would trap heat efficiently while allowing proper steam circulation. The real engineering challenge lay in the floor-bearing plinth, a stone foundation designed to support several hundred pounds of rock without settling or cracking under the extreme thermal cycling of repeated heating and cooling. As Aino sorted stones by size and shape, his neighbor Tom Halverson wandered over from his own construction project. Tom was throwing up a balloon-frame shack with matched board walls, planning to heat it with a cast-iron potbelly stove purchased from the general store in Virginia. He watched Aino carefully select fist-sized to grapefruit-sized stones, testing their weight and examining them for cracks that might split under heat. "You trying to heat the rocks or the room, Finn?" Tom asked, gesturing at the growing pile of granite. His tone carried the mild derision of someone who considered his own approach obviously superior. Frank Dwyer, building a 14 by 18 addition to his existing cabin, joined the conversation. He had installed a small parlor stove in his front room and couldn't understand the elaborate stone construction taking shape in Aino's sauna. "A potbelly will warm you by supper time," Frank observed. "That rock pile will be warm by spring." Their mockery reflected a fundamental difference in heating philosophy. American settlers had embraced thin-walled iron stoves that delivered quick, hot air but required constant feeding and provided no thermal storage. The Finnish approach prioritized thermal mass, stones that absorbed intense heat during a short, hot fire, then radiated that warmth steadily for hours after the flames died. One approach chased immediate comfort. The other banked heat like money saved for lean times. In town, word of Aino's unusual construction reached the depot, where traveling salesmen and local merchants gathered. Hjalmar Olsen, who kept a small general store and considered himself an authority on practical matters, pronounced the whole project stone heating nonsense. He argued that American stoves were engineered for steady firing, not heat storage, and that Aino's method would waste precious cordwood that had to be cut, split, and hauled by hand. Aino responded in his careful English, explaining that one hot fire stored in stone mass would release heat evenly for hours after the flames died completely. This wasn't wasteful, it was efficient. A fast, clean burn at high temperature extracted maximum energy from each piece of wood, while the stone mass prevented that energy from escaping up the chimney. The principle behind what Americans would later call masonry heaters had kept Finnish farmsteads warm for generations, in climates even colder than northern Minnesota. The cultural gap became obvious when Virginia's public sauna opened around 1912, built specifically for Finnish miners who needed a place to wash away iron ore dust and restore themselves after long shifts underground. The fact that an entire community would prioritize a public bathhouse struck many American settlers as peculiar, reinforcing the common joke that Finns build bathhouses before houses. Yet this priority reflected hard-won knowledge about survival, health, and comfort in harsh northern climates. Aino's sauna construction revealed technical sophistication that his critics didn't recognize. The stone selection followed strict criteria. Each rock had to withstand repeated heating without cracking or exploding. The firebox dimensions and stone arrangement had to create proper draft while ensuring even heat distribution throughout the mass. The bench heights had to account for heat stratification, placing bathers in the optimal temperature zone for the cleansing steam called löyly. As autumn approached and first frost threatened, the philosophical divide sharpened. Neighbors like Halverson and Dwyer prepared for winter by stockpiling cordwood for their hungry iron stoves, planning to feed them steadily through the cold months. Aino prepared differently, testing his stone mass system and calculating how much wood would be needed for the single daily burns that would keep his buildings warm all winter long. The stage was set for a practical test that would prove which heating philosophy worked better in Minnesota's brutal climate. Aino's stone mass system represented centuries of Finnish engineering adapted to New World materials. His neighbors' iron stoves embodied American faith in manufactured efficiency and continuous operation. Winter would judge between them with the cold, impartial measurement of survival itself. Aino's first firing in October 1903 produced nothing but frustration and smoke. He had packed his stone core too tightly, cramming field stones of mixed sizes together like puzzle pieces with no gaps for air circulation. The logic seemed sound. More stone meant more heat storage, but the reality proved different. Flames struggled to draw properly through the dense mass, creating a smoky, inefficient burn that left the upper stones barely warm while consuming precious cordwood with little result. The mistake revealed itself in the smoke that leaked back into the sauna room instead of drawing cleanly up the chimney. Aino had routed the flue straight up from the firebox, following the simple logic of American stove installations he had observed around Embarrass. But this direct path allowed hot gases to escape too quickly, carrying their heat energy up and out without transferring it to the surrounding stone mass. The principle of heat exchange required time and surface contact, something a straight chimney couldn't provide. After 3 smoky, disappointing test fires, Aino faced a decision that would have broken a less experienced craftsman. The entire stone core had to come apart, stone by stone, so he could rebuild it according to proper Finnish engineering principles he had learned, but initially abandoned in favor of what seemed like common sense. His neighbors, watching him dismantle weeks of careful construction, shook their heads at what appeared to be proof of their criticism about foreign building methods. The reconstruction revealed the sophisticated understanding behind traditional Finnish Kuas design. Aino sorted his stones again, this time selecting only fist-to-grapefruit-sized pieces that could interlock while maintaining crucial air gaps. These spaces allowed heated air to circulate throughout the mass, ensuring even temperature distribution and proper combustion airflow. The stones had to touch enough to transfer heat between them, but remain loose enough to expand and contract without cracking under thermal stress. The firebox itself required precise proportions. Aino built a brick chamber measuring 24 inches wide by 18 inches deep by 18 inches high, dimensions that created optimal combustion conditions for the wood he would burn. Too small, and the fire would be cramped and smoky. Too large and heat would dissipate before reaching the stone mass. These measurements, refined over generations of Finnish stove builders, match the burn characteristics of split birch and other hardwoods common to both Finland and Minnesota. The real innovation lay in the baffled flue path Aino constructed inside the stone mass. Instead of allowing hot gases to escape straight up, he forced them to snake through internal channels, following a serpentine route that gave maximum contact time with the stones. Hot exhaust gases entered at the bottom of the mass, traveled horizontally through carefully spaced gaps between stones, rose vertically through another channel, then traveled horizontally again before finally reaching the 6-inch chimney at the rear of the stove. This labyrinthine path served a critical function in heat transfer efficiency. Combustion gases entering the mass at temperatures above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit had to surrender most of that heat to the surrounding stones before being allowed to escape. By the time exhaust reached the chimney, it had cooled to a few hundred degrees, proof that the stone mass was capturing energy that would otherwise be lost to the outside air. Aino bound the inner courses with clay mortar instead of the lime or Portland cement mortars used in American masonry. Clay could withstand the extreme temperature changes without cracking, expanding, and contracting with the stones themselves, rather than fighting against thermal movement. This traditional material choice, common in Finnish stove construction, prevented the joint failures that plagued many American attempts at masonry heating. The outer shell presented another engineering challenge. Aino sheathed it in thin sheet metal rings, a technique borrowed from the Finnish puntiuni tradition. These metal bands held the stonework tight as it expanded during heating cycles, preventing gaps that would allow heat to escape prematurely. The metal itself became part of the heat distribution system, warming to a comfortable radiant temperature that extended the stove's effective heating surface. For the sauna's 14 to 15 cubic meter interior space, Aino calculated the stone load at several hundred pounds, enough mass to store significant heat energy, but not so much that the fire couldn't bring it to proper temperature. The bench placement took advantage of heat stratification, with lower benches at 36 inches for moderate temperatures and upper benches at 54 inches where the intense heat necessary for proper löyly steam production concentrated. The main house required a different approach entirely. Aino built a true masonry heater weighing 1,800 to 2,000 pounds, meeting what later American standards would define as minimum mass for effective heat storage. This monster consumed one daily firing of 10 to 20 kilograms of split birch, roughly 22 to 44 pounds of wood, burned hot and fast in a single batch rather than fed continuously like an iron stove. The firing technique itself contradicted American heating wisdom. Instead of maintaining a low, steady fire for hours, Aino loaded his firebox completely, opened the draft wide, and burned everything as hot and fast as possible. This rapid, high-temperature combustion extracted maximum energy from the wood while creating minimal creosote or other combustion byproducts. The intense heat charged the stone mass like a battery, storing thermal energy that would radiate steadily for 12 to 24 hours after the flames died completely. This approach required precise timing and attention during the 1 to 2 hour burn period, but afterward demanded nothing except enjoying the steady, comfortable warmth. No midnight trips to stoke the fire, no careful regulation of dampers, no constant feeding of fuel, just reliable radiant heat that made the harsh Minnesota winter survivable without the endless labor that iron stoves demanded from their owners. As winter approached and Aino's rebuilt stove neared completion, the community's response fractured along lines that revealed deeper philosophical differences about survival and adaptation. Hjalmar Olsen doubled down on his criticism, visiting other homesteads to warn that Aino would chase smoke forever with his complicated stone channels. His certainty stemmed from experience with simple, predictable cast iron technology that had served American settlements for decades without requiring specialized knowledge or foreign techniques. Mrs. Maud Frazier, the district school teacher, approached the project with different concerns rooted in her responsibility for children's safety. She had seen too many youngsters burned by the glowing hot surfaces of potbelly stoves in one-room schoolhouses and worried that Aino's massive stone construction might pose similar dangers. Her questions about surface temperatures revealed a sophisticated understanding of heat transfer that most settlers lacked. She recognized that different materials could reach identical internal temperatures while feeling completely different to human touch. Pastor Arvid Niemi, who had grown up near Oulu before immigrating to serve in Barris's Lutheran congregation, quietly observed the construction with knowing approval. His childhood memories included farmstead saunas and masonry heaters, identical to what Aino was building, and he understood the cultural significance of completing the sauna before winter's arrival. When he blessed the threshold upon completion, he offered prayers in both Finnish and English, bridging two worlds of heating wisdom. Joe Kowalski, the teamster who hauled supplies between Virginia and the scattered homesteads, offered pragmatic assistance that revealed the hybrid thinking common among experienced settlers. He volunteered to bring better fire brick from the depot if Aino would consider adding a flat cooking surface like Americans do. This suggestion reflected practical wisdom about multi-purpose heating. Why not capture some of that stored heat for cooking as well as warming? Aino's response to these varied concerns demonstrated the depth of his technical understanding. He explained in his pocket notebook that radiant comfort, not air temperature, was the true goal of effective heating. The human body responded to the temperature of surrounding surfaces, not just the air itself, a principle that modern engineers would later formalize as mean radiant temperature. Hot air from an iron stove could make a thermometer read 70 degrees while people still felt cold if walls, floors, and ceilings remained frigid. Warm stone surfaces radiating gentle heat created comfort at lower air temperatures by warming the human body directly. This insight guided Aino's completion strategy. He designed the house heater with a bake oven throat that captured additional heat for bread making, and he laid a warming bench along its south face where family members could sit and absorb radiant heat directly from the stone mass. These features transformed the heater from simple room warming device into a multi-purpose family gathering place that provided both physical comfort and social cohesion during long winter evenings. The sauna completion revealed equal attention to functional detail. Aino installed 2 bench tiers at precisely calculated heights, 36 inches for moderate heat exposure and 54 inches for the intense temperatures needed for proper löyly steam production. The rock kuas of 7 to 800 pounds provided enough thermal mass to reach 80 to 95 degrees Celsius while maintaining heat long enough for thorough bathing. A vented cool-down porch attached to the main structure allowed bathers to transition gradually between extreme temperatures and outside air. Across the section line, Tom Halverson's 12 by 16 balloon frame cabin neared completion with radically different heating priorities. He centered a potbelly stove on a sheet metal heat shield, following standard American practice that emphasized quick heat generation over long-term storage. The thin board and batten walls provided minimal thermal mass, requiring constant fuel input to maintain comfortable temperatures. His approach reflected faith in manufactured efficiency and the availability of steady wood supplies throughout the heating season. Frank Dwyer copied this pattern in his 14 by 18 edition, installing a small parlor stove in his front room. The cast iron unit promised quick startup and responsive heat control, advantages that seemed obvious compared to Aino's slow-warming stone mass. Dwyer's choice represented typical American heating logic. Why wait hours for stones to warm up when iron could deliver heat immediately after lighting? Hjalmar Olsen escalated his demonstration of American superiority by purchasing a coal-capable cast iron insert for his front room, a Baltimore heater that could burn either wood or the imported coal arriving by rail from Pennsylvania mines. He boasted that this advanced technology could maintain steady heat all night without fin tricks or complicated stone arrangements. The coal-burning capability represented the latest in heating efficiency, connecting his homestead to industrial fuel networks that promised liberation from local woodcutting. By first frost in October, all 4 heating systems stood ready for testing. Aino's inaugural firings revealed the sophisticated performance characteristics of properly engineered thermal mass. The sauna reached optimal temperatures of 80 to 95 degrees Celsius with just 2 buckets of water, creating the generous löyly steam that Finnish tradition demanded. The house heater demonstrated its storage capacity by maintaining the living room at 20 degrees Celsius, approximately 68 degrees Fahrenheit, from evening until breakfast, with the fire completely extinguished overnight. These initial results contradicted American assumptions about heating efficiency. Aino's single evening burn of roughly 18 kilograms of birch, about 40 pounds of split wood, provided steady warmth for 12 hours without any attention or additional fuel. The stone surfaces remained warm to the touch throughout the night, radiating gentle heat that maintained comfort without the dry, overheated air characteristic of continuously fired iron stoves. The contrast became evident immediately. Halverson's potbelly required stoking every few hours to prevent temperature drops, and the thin metal walls created dramatic temperature swings as the fire cycled between blazing and dying down. Dwyer's parlor stove heated his front room adequately, but left the rest of his addition uncomfortably cold, demonstrating the limitations of point source heating in larger spaces. Olson's Baltimore heater performed better with its coal-burning capability, but still required careful regulation of drafts and fuel feeding to maintain steady output. The convenience of purchased coal came with dependency on rail delivery and cash payment, luxuries that not all homesteaders could afford during difficult seasons. As November's deeper cold arrived, these differences in heating philosophy would face their first serious test. Aino's thermal storage system had proven its basic functionality, but the coming winter would determine whether Finnish engineering wisdom could truly outperform American manufacturing efficiency in Minnesota's harsh climate. The winter of 1911 to 1912 brought Minnesota its coldest January on record, an Arctic siege that would test every heating system across the Iron Range and Upper Peninsula. Weather stations in Minneapolis logged 186 consecutive hours below 0 degrees Fahrenheit from December 31st through January 8th, while communities throughout northern Minnesota endured the same relentless polar air mass. The cold wave represented a once-in-a-generation meteorological event that pushed frontier heating technology beyond normal operational limits. On January 5, 1912, northwest winds drove snow horizontally across the cut-over landscape surrounding Embarrass, creating ground blizzard conditions that made outdoor work impossible. The temperature plunged to 35 degrees below zero as night fell, with wind chills reaching levels that could freeze exposed skin within minutes. These were conditions that separated functional heating systems from inadequate ones with brutal clarity. Inside Tom Halverson's balloon frame cabin, the potbelly stove glowed cherry red as he fed it split maple and birch in desperate attempts to maintain livable temperatures. Despite the roaring fire, thermodynamic reality asserted itself with mathematical precision. The thin sheet metal stove walls radiated intense heat in their immediate vicinity, but provided no thermal storage capacity. Heat generated by combustion escaped through the single-wall chimney, and thin cabin walls faster than the small firebox could produce it. By dawn, water left near the floor had frozen solid, despite continuous firing throughout the night. Frank Dwyer's parlor stove faced similar limitations magnified by the larger space it attempted to heat. His 14 by 18 addition created over 4,000 cubic feet of air volume that the small cast iron unit couldn't warm evenly. The stove heated the air near its location adequately, but thermal stratification left floor-level temperatures 20 to 30 degrees colder than ceiling measurements. Dwyer found himself stoking the fire at 2 in the morning and again at 4, burning through his carefully hoarded wood supply at an unsustainable rate just to prevent his water pipes from bursting. Hjalmar Olsson's coal-burning Baltimore heater performed better than his neighbor's wood-burning units, delivering more consistent heat output from its superior fuel source. The coal's higher energy density provided longer burn times and more stable temperatures than wood fires. However, the cast iron construction still suffered from the fundamental limitation of all thin-walled heating appliances: immediate heat transfer without storage capacity. His front room stayed reasonably warm, but the bedrooms remained brutally cold, forcing his family to huddle together for warmth despite the expensive heating technology. Across the section, Aino followed his established routine with methodical precision. At dusk on January 5th, he loaded his masonry heater's firebox with 18 kilograms of split birch, approximately 40 pounds of seasoned hardwood. He opened the draft controls fully and ignited a fire that burned intensely for 90 minutes, reaching temperatures above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit in the combustion chamber. The flames consumed the entire wood charge rapidly, creating the high temperature conditions necessary for complete combustion and maximum heat transfer to the surrounding stone mass. The physics of thermal storage revealed their advantages under extreme conditions. While thin metal stoves lost heat to the outside as quickly as they generated it, Aino's 1,800-pound stone mass absorbed and retained the fire's energy. The internal baffles forced hot combustion gases through their serpentine path, ensuring maximum heat transfer before exhaust reached the chimney. By the time gases exited the system, they had cooled to a few hundred degrees, proof that the stone had captured energy that would have been lost in a conventional stove. At 6 o'clock the following morning, with outside temperatures still hovering near 30 below, Aino's parlor maintained steady temperatures between 66 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The stone surfaces remained warm to the touch, radiating gentle heat that kept his family comfortable without any additional fuel input. The masonry's thermal inertia provided protection against the rapid temperature swings that plagued metal stoves, maintaining consistent warmth even as Arctic winds battered the cabin walls. The sauna demonstrated equally impressive performance under extreme conditions. Aino lit the kuwas that same evening, taking advantage of residual heat in the stones from the house heater's operation. The interconnected thermal masses worked synergistically. Waste heat from the main heater helped pre-warm the sauna stones, reducing the fuel needed to reach bathing temperatures. 2 buckets of water thrown onto the heated rocks created the generous löyly steam that Finnish tradition demanded, providing therapeutic heat and humidity that countered the brutal dryness of the sub-zero air. This complementary system revealed sophisticated energy management that American heating approaches missed entirely. Instead of treating each heated space as an isolated problem requiring separate fuel input, Aino's integrated design captured and redistributed thermal energy throughout his homestead. The shared chimney, connected thermal masses, and strategic positioning created heating efficiency that multiplied the effectiveness of each piece of burned wood. Temperature measurements taken during the worst 24-hour period of the cold wave documented the dramatic performance differences. Aino's single evening burn of 40 pounds of wood maintained interior temperatures in the high 60s through radiant heating, while Halvorsen recorded air temperatures between 55 and 58 degrees at head height, despite burning wood continuously. More tellingly, Halvorsen's floor-level temperatures dropped below 40 degrees, creating the dangerous thermal stratification that led to frozen water containers and pipes. The wood consumption comparison revealed the economic advantages of thermal storage heating. During the coldest week, Aino burned approximately 280 pounds of split birch, 40 pounds per day for 7 days, while maintaining consistent comfort. His neighbors consumed nearly twice that amount while achieving inferior results, burning through winter wood supplies that had taken months of labor to cut, split, and stack. The human comfort factor proved equally significant. Radiant heating from warm stone surfaces created pleasant warmth that penetrated clothing and warmed the body directly, while the hot air from metal stoves felt harsh and dry. Family members could sit comfortably near Aino's heater without the scorching heat that made close proximity to iron stoves uncomfortable, yet still receive effective warming. The stone surfaces provided safe, touchable warmth that children could lean against without burns, a crucial safety advantage during long winter confinements. When November's white hurricane storms returned the following year with hurricane-force winds and heavy snow, the performance gap became even more pronounced. Finnish bathhouses throughout the Iron Range continued serving as community gathering places during power outages and fuel shortages, providing proof of concept that extended far beyond individual homesteads. The cultural practice of building saunas first had proven its wisdom through the harsh measurement of actual survival and comfort during Minnesota's most challenging weather conditions. After the record-breaking cold of January 1912, Tom Halvorsen and Frank Dwyer appeared at Aino's door with hats in hand and humbled expressions. The brutal winter had burned through their wood supplies while leaving their families shivering despite constant stoking. Halverson asked directly how to copy the stone heater without the foreign fuss, a request that revealed how desperation had overcome cultural prejudice. His family had endured weeks of sleeping fully clothed while ice formed on interior walls just 10 feet from their roaring potbelly stove. Aino responded with characteristic precision, sketching a scaled-down masonry core suitable for Halverson's smaller cabin. The design required minimum thermal mass, about 1,800 pounds of stone and brick, to achieve effective heat storage without overwhelming the structure. He emphasized the critical importance of internal flue channels that forced exhaust gases through extended contact with the thermal mass before allowing them to escape. Without proper baffling, he warned, they would simply create an expensive pile of rocks that heated poorly and wasted fuel. The construction guidance Aino provided revealed technical knowledge that went far beyond simple stone stacking. He specified clay mortar joints that could withstand thermal cycling without cracking, proper stone grading that balanced heat storage with structural stability, and firebox proportions that created optimal combustion conditions. Most crucially, he taught the firing technique, one daily charge of 20 to 30 pounds of seasoned hardwood burned hot and fast, followed by complete combustion and 12 to 24 hours of radiant heat release. Pastor Arvid Niemi became the unlikely conduit for spreading this technical knowledge throughout the Finnish community. His Sunday visits to scattered homesteads provided opportunities to discuss heating challenges with families struggling through their first Minnesota winters. The pastor's endorsement carried weight because congregants knew he understood both Finnish traditions and American conditions. His careful documentation of successful installations created an informal network of technical support that helped prevent the construction mistakes that had plagued Aino's initial attempt. Word traveled along kinship and church networks to families engaged in logging operations throughout St. Louis County. The seasonal nature of logging work meant that families spent long winter months in isolated camps where efficient heating became a matter of survival rather than mere comfort. Loggers who had endured brutal conditions with inadequate cast iron stoves began requesting stone core heaters in their bunkhouses and family quarters. The construction knowledge spread through practical demonstration as experienced builders taught apprentices the specialized techniques required for proper masonry heater construction. By 1915, over a dozen homesteads within the township had adopted stone mass heating systems or rebuilt their saunas with larger rock piles. The adaptations revealed how immigrant technical knowledge evolved to meet local conditions and available materials. Some builders incorporated native granite fieldstones exclusively, while others combined imported fire brick with local stone to optimize heat retention and structural integrity. The variations demonstrated flexible engineering principles rather than rigid adherence to old country methods. Similar adoptions emerged throughout the Lake Superior region where Finnish settlement concentrated. North Shore Homesteaders near Little Moray in Finland, Minnesota, rebuilt existing saunas with enhanced thermal mass after hearing reports of superior performance during severe weather. Copper Country mining families in Michigan's Upper Peninsula commissioned stone core heaters for company housing, creating a regional pattern of thermal storage heating that followed ethnic settlement networks rather than mainstream American building practices. The technical knowledge preservation occurred through multiple channels that ensured survival beyond individual practitioners. Aino maintained detailed construction notes in his pocket ledger, recording optimal stone sizes, mortar compositions, flue dimensions, and firing schedules that produced consistent results. These measurements became reference standards that other builders could follow without requiring extensive trial and error experimentation. The documentation process transformed intuitive craft knowledge into reproducible engineering specifications. Public saunas constructed during the 1910s and 20s demonstrated the scalability of Finnish heating principles. The Virginia Public Sauna, built around 1912 for iron ore miners, incorporated massive stone core heaters designed to serve dozens of users daily. The engineering challenges of heating larger spaces required sophisticated understanding of thermal load calculations, air circulation patterns, and structural support systems that could handle multi-ton stone installations. These public buildings became laboratories for refining masonry heater technology under intensive use conditions. The economic advantages of thermal storage heating became increasingly apparent as fuel costs rose and transportation challenges intensified. Families using stone mass systems consistently burned 30 to 40% less wood than their neighbors while achieving superior comfort levels. This efficiency advantage translated directly into reduced labor requirements for cutting, splitting, hauling, and stacking fuel, savings that accumulated significantly over entire heating seasons. The time savings allowed homesteaders to focus on other survival priorities during the brief northern growing season. Regional building practices gradually incorporated Finnish heating innovations without abandoning American construction methods entirely. Hybrid designs emerged that combined balloon frame or platform frame construction with interior masonry heater cores, creating buildings that satisfied American efficiency expectations while capturing thermal storage advantages. These adaptations demonstrated how immigrant technical knowledge could enhance rather than replace existing building traditions. The cultural significance of sauna-first construction patterns became visible in settlement geography that historians would later map and analyze. Finnish homesteads consistently featured substantial bathhouses completed before main dwellings, creating landscape signatures that distinguished these communities from German, Norwegian, or British settlement areas. The prioritization of bathing facilities reflected deep cultural understanding of hygiene, health, and social cohesion requirements for surviving harsh northern climates. Modern building science research has validated the physiological principles that guided Finnish heating design. Studies of thermal comfort demonstrate that mean radiant temperature, the average temperature of surrounding surfaces, affects human comfort equally with air temperature. Warm stone surfaces radiating gentle heat allow occupants to feel comfortable at lower air temperatures than hot air systems require, reducing overall energy consumption while improving comfort quality. Contemporary radiant heating systems and infrared heating technologies represent rediscovery of principles that Finnish immigrants never abandoned. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization's recognition of sauna culture in Finland as an intangible cultural heritage reflects growing appreciation for traditional knowledge systems that modern technology is only beginning to understand scientifically. Current revival of sauna construction throughout Minnesota and the Great Lakes region demonstrates continuing relevance of thermal storage heating principles in contemporary sustainable building practices. Aino's simple advice, "One hot fire charges the bank, the stone pays you back slowly," captured essential wisdom about energy storage and release that anticipates modern discussions of thermal batteries and renewable energy systems. His immigrant engineering knowledge bridged ancient Finnish building traditions with American frontier conditions, creating heating solutions that remain relevant for contemporary challenges of energy efficiency and environmental sustainability.